started right now. Yeah, hello, good evening, everyone. Yeah, welcome. The Tonight we're going to, talk about the Linky English program, right? Joining me tonight, our English group. So we have our English teachers for tonight. We have Janelle, who is currently in the Zoom. We have Matt Thompson. We have Teresa. We also have Amanda. So they will be talking about, the program design, the curriculum, the importance of the English program. Yeah, so let me get this one started. So everybody, I assume you all know me. I'm Henry Liu. I'm in charge of the Linky operation. So, all right, Matt is joining. Let's get this one started. It won't take me too long because I want to leave more time for our English teachers. I'll just briefly talk about the importance of English. Janelle, if you can flip, okay, thank you. So this is the importance of the English program. Tomorrow, actually not tomorrow, I lied. On Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m., we are going to host a seminar. We have invited the speakers from, the students just graduated this year from high school, and they have, got admitted by the top universities such as Harvard, Stanford, Brown, and UC Berkeley, UCLA, and such, right? If you look at their profiles, there's a one common area those students share, which is English. And if you look at those students, and you're all welcome to come on Saturday to the seminar, right? So you will hear, and you will be able to tell English is one of the strong areas those students share, right? The reason why we say English could be the most important subject in your middle school or high school is because English is not only a subject. English is basically a tool help you communicate with your friends, with your fellow schoolmates, with your teachers, with your parents, basically with everybody, right? When you try to present yourself, when you try to deliver your opinion, right? Regardless whether it's in writing or in speaking, it's a communication. So you need that tool to communicate, right? So some students or parents may tell me, hey, you know what? I'm more interested in STEM. I'm more interested in natural science, right? Do I still need to be good at English? Obviously, the answer is yes, right? Because if you look at science, you look at math, you look at chemistry, you need good English communication skills so that in the a lot of occasions you need English to write good essay, you need English to write a good application answers. So without good writing or speaking skills, you just simply cannot do the communication, right? Even it's a science or math. So that's the I want to get this one, get this message across, so we are all on the same page. If we are asked for tell me one subject that is the most important in your high school or middle school, I would say English. That's for sure, right? 那我用中文讲一下哈，就今天晚上我们有我们英语教学组一共有4位老师啊，现在在线上的是我们有 Janelle， 我们有 Matt， 另外2个老师因为今天晚上有课，他们会稍微晚一点会加入我们那他们每一位都会把他们各自的负责的这个班级的课程的设计然后给大家讲一下今天晚上其实上有一个很重要的一个工具我们要给大家讲刚才我用英文讲的时候忘说了，我们先用中文说一遍，就是我们的雷达图，我们叫 Reader Chart。那这个工具是我们花了很长的时间来开发的，最主要的目的就是用一个比较可视 visualized， 或者说是比较可以数字化的一个方法，一个工具，来帮助我们的学生们判断他们在英语的每一个知识点上目前的状态那我们可以知道他们自己可以知道他们自己的长板和短板，就是哪一个地方是他们比较强的地方，哪个地方是他们相对比较弱的，而需要加强的地方那一会儿Janelle会讲我们的这个工具就这个雷达星图那今天我们用的所有的数字都是真实的数字所以这个大家一会儿可以看一下。那我大概只说半分钟的时间就用中文很简单的这个总结一下刚才我说的，就是在所有的我们的课程当中，我们的中学课程和高中课程当中，英语可能是最重要的一门，因为它不简单是一门功课，它更重要的实际上是一个工具。那即便你是一个这个在将来你说我想学这个数理化那你在很多地方你都是需要这种表达，比如说你有很多 paper 是要用英文来写，你有很多这种 essay 这种scientific essay 是要用英文来写，你的大学的文书和你的 interview 都是要通过英文来完成，不管是书面的还是口头的周6下午呢，我们会有一个今年大学毕业生，就是 Linky 的优秀毕业生的一个讲座那这些学生他们都被类似于像哈佛呀、斯坦福呀、布朗大学这些学校录取。如果我们去看他们这些学生的一个这个比较common 的一个特点的话比较通行的一个特点的话共有的一个特点的话，就是他们的英语都非常强他们的英语的成绩都非常强，他们的这种表达的能力不管是书面表达还是口头表达的能力都是非常强。所以这个就是为什么我们一直都在跟大家强调，因为很多人讲说英语是我每天都在讲的话，然后我每天都用英语聊天这个还有那么多必要吗？其实它是非常重要的，在很多时候它是你的这个我们叫 differentiator 或者我们叫你的这种能够做到与众不同的地方因为你其他地方大家都考98分，如果你们知道的话，今年滑铁卢的 computer science 是我们很多华裔的学生非常喜欢的一个专业。今年滑铁卢的 computer science 的平均分大概已经到了98分，所以大家都考98分，你能保证进滑铁卢吗？可能是不能就是滑铁卢 computer science 可能是不能。那怎么样能够保证你的竞争优势？你就要从你的这种沟通能力、表达能力，用一个很好的这样的一种展现的工具，把你最优秀的地方展现出来，通过你的申请文书，我们叫 application essay， 和通过你的interview那所以我们讲英语可能是你的差异化就是一个差异化，或者我们叫 differentiator， 能够让你在这种激烈的竞争当中能够脱颖而出的一个领域，或者说我们叫它是一个很好的一个工具，好吗 ？OK， so I am going to hand it over to Janelle. Janelle will take over from me, and she will be talking about the reader chart, the program curriculum design and such. All right. Thank you, Janelle. It's all yours.
Fantastic. Hello again, everyone. So happy to see you here today. So continuing on from what Henry said about English. Today's agenda, we're going to go through the foundations, what we stand for, what we really want to drive here at Linked Key forward, then going into the skills that we master to prepare you for high school, yes, but also post-secondary school and your professional career. And then we're going to go into what to expect for the summer semester, and then briefly talk about the fall. So the foundations, why study English? Basically adding on to what Henry mentioned. English is the one subject that you are going to see all throughout high school. Now, when you see that, you're thinking, oh, why do I need to continue to get extra help outside of school if they're just teaching me this throughout all of the years? And the truth is that what you learn in high school is different from what you learn in post-secondary school. And take it from me, you want to know ahead of time what to expect instead of kind of jumping into this new area, this new environment, and needing to learn from scratch. So why study English? It is mandatory. Post-secondary schools are looking at these grades. Again, like Henry mentioned, this is the one grade that they're going to be tracking. It is essential. So no matter what major you're in, science, engineering, you're going to need to communicate. English isn't just a subject. English is a whole language. You being able to clearly articulate your thoughts is very important. None of us are mind readers, right? So it's really how it's about asking the question of how can you best take all of the ideas that you have in your head and put it on paper so that when the reader, picks up your paper and reads it, they clearly understand what it is you mean. That sounds really simple when I say it, but as you probably know, it is quite challenging to really and truly execute well. And then, of course, it is beneficial. So no matter what field you are studying, you will need this for your professional life, right? Like interviews, right? Writing a resume. You're most likely going to be needing to write reports, writing emails. And again, you want to be able to clearly communicate, okay? And generally speaking too, a lot of the schools that you're looking to get into, English is the primary language, right? That's the language that you are learning everything in. And it was actually Matt who mentioned, just looking at the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, we are able to understand him because he either speaks English in his videos or he uses a translator to get his ideas across, right? So English is the main language that you need. And once you have it, no matter where you go in the world, because maybe in your professional career, you're going to many different locations, many different areas and countries around the world. English, once you know English, you are going to be in very good shape. So here's the truth. Here's the truth about the grades that you get in high school compared to the grades that you get in university. They're very different. So the Ontario school curriculum does the best that they can with what they have, through funding, the larger class sizes. It's a little difficult to communicate everything that you need. The unfortunate thing is that you tend to realize this once you are in post-secondary school, learning how to write again. What do I mean by this? So when I was in high school, I was getting pretty nice English grades. My teachers were really proud of me for the grades that I was getting, right? Like it's in the 80s, high 80s, 90s every now and then. And so I was thinking, okay, perfect. This is excellent. I got into U of T and I was very proud of myself for this. And when I had assignments to write, I very much expected to be getting those similar grades, right? The 80s, the 90s. I was in for a rude awakening though, when the marks that I got back in my first year of university were 60s. It wasn't that I was a bad writer per se, or it wasn't that I was worse off than the other students in my class, but turns out across the board, the average was around that grade. And so just to kind of give you a visual, if you're getting high school grades of 85 and up, that is excellent. And that is really good for getting you into post-secondary school. And also, it doesn't fully equip you for the writing that you need to be doing at that level. So without any help to bridge that gap between high school and post-secondary, you will easily see grades at the university level of about 70% and up. And very similar for high school grades of about 70 to 85, right? You're seeing a little bit lower than that in university. Okay, so really stressing the importance of knowing how to write at the post-secondary level. Okay, so this is what our curriculum really strives to do. So this is our roadmap, and this shows the different streams in our English department. We have the literature stream, we have the writing stream, and that gets broken down a little bit more. And then we have the ESL and university application sections. So for the English literature stream, you are learning a little bit of everything, or from start to finish, you're learning how to understand the book that you're reading, because 9 times out of 10, it isn't just the words alone that you're reading as you understand, but it is a matter of understanding what those words mean. What is the author trying to communicate? How can we break that down? We might see one sentence, right? So taking from The Kite Runner, we might see a passage that really shows the way that Amir feels jealous over Hassan, the servant's son. And we can pull out jealousy, sure, but how can we go deeper? How can we truly understand what it is the author is trying to convey by showing the relationship and the way that this main character feels about the other character? Okay, so from there, it's about how you can articulate this in your writing. Reading is one thing, reading comprehension, and then there is the analysis, so breaking that down. And then from there, it's how do we actually put that on paper? So now we're going deeper into critical thinking, literary analysis skills. We're trying to see if there's ways that we can make your sentences more concise, because sometimes we find that you can put in what you wrote in 3 sentences can be reduced to 1, where it makes a lot more sense, right? And it is clear to the reader exactly what it is you want to communicate, okay? And from there, you're able to write a really clear essay. Now, we teach these concepts and we continue to reiterate these concepts because you can know them, but then applying them is where it gets really tricky. So to give you an example, I can teach my grade 9s and my grade 11s about writing transitions. And I can assure you that with both of those grades, even if they learned the concept a couple years ago, there will be more that we can work on. Okay. Now I will briefly pass it on to Matt to talk about his creative writing stream.
Hi there. I don't know if you've seen my camera going on and off lately. I've been fighting with Zoom a little bit since the latest update, so my apologies if I randomly cut out in the middle of a sentence. But yeah, I'd like to talk to you about the creative writing stream. It's a very innovative and interesting area of Linked Key. It's the sort of thing that we're able to do as an enrichment program that provides teachers and students a lot of freedom to try something a little bit new that they wouldn't get in a standard school. With creative writing, the first principle that we proceed from for this class is the concept of joy. Students absolutely love this class. This class is fun. I am confident that this class can compete directly with anything else that they're going to be doing this summer. This includes camp, this includes video games, whatever they're doing on TikTok. This class is fun. They're going to laugh the entire time. They're going to enjoy themselves. The reason this is important is because kids tend to not like school. Kids tend to not like writing. More and more we hear kids complaining that they don't even like reading. It's important that we do something, that we intervene, in particular when they are young, to help spark a passion for writing, a passion for storytelling. As Janelle had mentioned, this sort of skill is going to serve you for the rest of your life. Being able to tell a good, compelling, interesting story can get you through a job interview, can get you advancements in the company or business you're working for, can help you land a client or customer who feel that they understand you, that you can communicate with them better. Because the students in this class are going to be writing about something they made themselves and something they loved creating, we see incredible results from their homework. I'll try to explain what exactly we do in the class. We tell a story together. I build a setting, I'll create some characters, some events. Each of my students creates one unique character. It doesn't have to be like themselves. It usually is the first time. The first time we generally watch the kids play the character the same way that they would if they were really in these situations. And by the time they're in semester 2 or semester 3, we get some really, really interesting things from them as they sort of become more confident and begin to branch out. But essentially what happens is each session that we have, I present them with new and interesting challenges. Maybe we're writing a horror story and they're fighting a monster or something. Maybe they're exploring an alien planet or something. Whatever it is, they get a set of challenges that day and they talk to each other about how best to work through them. They make some decisions and these decisions have consequences. We have an element of randomness within our sessions as well. I don't just decide whether their idea worked or whether it didn't, but we integrate some element of chance that can cause something to go wrong. This helps underscore the need for a conflict within a story. A story doesn't become interesting if the good guys always win. This is why people enjoy watching live events like sports. The Raptors and the Blue Jays don't win every single night. That makes it really fun when they do win. The same thing happens in the stories that we're telling. Sometimes the stories have bad endings if we made a lot of bad decisions throughout the story. This past semester, we had 2 different classes working on a very similar story. They got 2 very different endings, and that was very interesting to me as a teacher. There's a sort of trick going on with this class. Parents, especially in the first couple of days with the class, will get a little bit skeptical. They'll wonder, is my child actually learning anything? They're laughing and screaming at the top of their lungs the entire time. Kids sort of feel like they're getting away with something. I can't believe this is really school. I'm having so much fun. And yet, every single week or multiple times in the week during the summer, they're going to put out massive pieces of writing. They start a little bit small at the beginning, but as they get into the story, again, as passion is developed, as they are telling a story they truly love, they want to tell others about it. And at the end of the semester, they produce a book. All of the kids come together, we write a book. Sometimes it's hundreds of pages long. Depends how long we've been writing and how many kids are in the class. But I work with them on this. I provide some editing support. We help to practice key details of the writing process. And in the end, we actually come together with a set of graphics and we publish this thing up on a website. So we have a website called Issue where you can actually go take a look at some of our previous books, but it's also posted in their Google Classroom, which they'll be working with me on. They get a PDF of their work that they can take home. It's got a nice title page. It's got their names listed there as authors. The goal of the class is to really encourage them to develop and love what they created and have fun while they're doing it and go home with something they can be proud of that they want to show to you or their siblings or their friends. I think that's it for me, Janelle, unless you had a second slide for me to talk about.
Yes, in just a second, about standardized prep. I do also want to add about Matt's creative writing unit in particular is that it really caters to, so it's for younger grades. Matt, it's like 5 to 6. So what we really strive to do with his stream is to make writing enjoyable, because oftentimes we have a lot of students coming to us saying, oh, I hate writing. Oh my gosh, it's so boring. It's so hard. It's so annoying. I don't understand this. What's the sentence structure? All of these things. And so by having this kind of stream, it really helps them see that they can, create and manipulate even stories and writing in a way that makes it enjoyable for them. Because even if the entertainment or the kind of edutainment, so education plus entertainment that they're getting, so a TikTok, a show, content creator, those creators are writing, right? They're writing first and then they are translating it to media. So when we get them to understand that, it's as though a whole other area in their brain is unlocked as they see just how interesting and fun writing can be. And given that they're going to be doing a lot of it for their lifetime, if we can get them to enjoy it from as early as grade 5, then we are really, really happy.
Yeah. Right at the start of distance learning, I recall hearing a bunch of stories about parents sort of having to fight with their children to get them onto the call, and that it's even worse because they're at home and they want to sleep in or go play video games. Or there's also so many distractions that we're competing with, right? Anything on your kid's desk, anything they can alt tab into, YouTube videos, Slither.io, Among Us lobbies, whatever it is. That I wanted to try to invert that relationship. So instead of a parent fighting with a child to get them onto their class, I want my students bothering their parents. Come on, writing class is going to start. I don't want to be late. Last time I missed the beginning of it. They need to get your laptop or their iPad away from you because they want to see their friends, they want to build a story, and they don't want to miss anything that goes on every week, because every week it's new, it's interesting, and even I don't really know what's going to happen in each class until the students actually start to kind of take the reins and steer the story in the direction that they want it to go.
So the other stream for writing that we have is with Hamada, or Dr. Hamada. He isn't here right now, so I'm just going to give a brief rundown of his stream, and then hopefully he will come in time to break it down a little bit further for you. So where in the English literature stream, we are going from start to finish, and it's an all-encompassing process of reading any piece of text, so poetry, a short story, or a novel, or an essay, and then breaking it down and understanding it. Hamada goes really deep into the writing in particular. So he's looking at common errors that students make when they're writing, right? Like run-on sentences or comma splices, what are they? How can you solve that? And through this, he's able to help them really improve their vocabulary and just understand how writing works, because the deeper you go into it, the more you see that there are a lot of different patterns that we aren't necessarily taught specifically in high school, but even if you are, a native English speaker, you don't know a lot of these concepts. And so you might look at a sentence and say, that sounds off, that sounds wrong, but I don't know why. So he really takes his time to go deeper into that for his students. We also have standardized prep, this is the stream that both Matt and Teresa work on. Matt, do you briefly want to talk about this and then go into SAT? I believe that Teresa or T will be here shortly as well, but do you want to get started on that?
Yes, my apologies. Just responding to a question I got from a direct message. We're talking about standardized testing, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so standardized testing, we'll begin with the SSAT. Generally speaking, with the SSAT, the earlier you start, the better you're going to perform. It requires a specific set of skills. It is, in some ways, a general language test, but with all of these standardized tests, you're going to hear me echo this when I discuss the SAT. They are written in a particular way. If you just go into it as a smart kid, you're going to come out with a very average mark, and you're not really going to know why. You're going to be presented with a bunch of questions that almost feel like they're written in a foreign language. They're going to ask you to do weird things that you wouldn't think about doing with a particular passage or to explain for particular words or word relationships. And overall, you're going to end up kind of disappointed. In order to pass this test, you need a mixture of skills. Basic math skills are important, basic English skills are important. You have to know how to take apart a passage in a brief amount of time. You need to be able to do this in such a way that yields certain very specific results. You have to pull out the main idea of the passage, but also the tone. Nobody ever gets the tone questions right the first time because they have no idea what the test is asking for. Sometimes they'll ask for specific details. These are almost always trick questions. Trick questions absolutely exist on the test. If you go to the website for the SSAT, or if you ask anybody who gives the test, excuse me, are there trick questions on this test? They'll say no. No, we don't have trick questions, but ask yourself something. If you were putting a trap somewhere, like in the movie Home Alone, or if you were going to try to fool somebody, or if you were throwing a surprise party, and they asked you, is there going to be a surprise party later? Would you tell them yes? If you're hiding trick questions in your test, of course you're not going to tell people there's trick questions. But they are absolutely trick questions. There's intentional traps. They build questions in such a way that somebody with enough knowledge but not enough specific knowledge will absolutely get the question wrong. In prep, we will teach you how to spot these questions. We will teach you how to take apart these passages in a timely manner. And we will teach you how to find the information you need to find quickly, because the entire time you're up against the clock and you lose marks for guessing. So in standardized test preparation, I will also have to teach your children how to gamble. That seems weird, but if you're going to go to a private school, you need to be good at gambling. That's one of the things they test you on. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's what we have to do. We have to explain why you need to guess in certain situations. Almost all of your students are too conservative to take this test. They hear that they could lose marks, and so they leave many, many marks on the table because they're not willing to take guesses when they should absolutely take guesses. It's usually a 2-week process. We have to teach them why to guess, we have to watch them still not guess, and then we have to teach them again and prove to them how much better they would do if they would guess more. The language portion of the test. There are 2 sets. The first set is simple explanation. We're still on SSAT right now. The language portion of this test, the vocabulary portion rather, is divided into 2 sections. The first section, they'll give you a word and they'll ask you to pick the most similar word from a set of 5. There are a set of like normal words that most kids do all right with. That'll get you a B. If you come up with average marks, you don't get into any schools and you may as well not take the test. The goal here is not to pass, the goal is to excel. So there's hard words divided into 2 categories. The first are very fancy formal words like prehensile. And they'll give you words that sound very similar to it. They'll give you words like Neanderthalic or prehistoric. And those will feel right, especially if you've read the word prehensile before. Prehensile will often refer to things like a tail on a monkey. Oh, a monkey has a prehensile tail. That might mean prehistoric, but actually it means that it can move on its own. And so the correct answer to that question was actually the word grasping, which kind of felt like a trick by the time you got to the end because it was a very simple word compared to many that are very difficult. They will also give you sort of slang terms, regular everyday words that mean something hyper specific in a sense. you could say a word like blank or a word like blunt. And they'll ask you for a very specific, as soon as I said blunt, I'm like, some kids are going to hear different things, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was somebody who is very dull. You might call somebody who's not very intelligent blunt. You might also call somebody with no tact or no manners blunt. That's the sort of word, that's the sort of answer they're looking for from that one. The second section is about word relationships. This is the hardest section from the language side. This fools a lot of people. It will ask you simple questions like hand is to body as branches to tree would be a correct answer for that. You're asked to determine the relationship between two words. What they're asking you to do is choose between about 10 different categories of relationships and then choose which two words best represent those relationships. You don't know what those terms are, you don't know what those relationships are, you don't know what the categories are, you're going to be swimming upstream for the whole section. So preparation is absolutely essential for getting through that section. And it's one of the reasons why any of the standardized test preparation books can make very bold claims on the cover, like guaranteed 15% improvement, because they can guarantee that. Because if you haven't done any practice on how to take the test, you will fail. Or at least you will fail to get a grade that you need. So simply by helping you decipher the language of the test, you can bring your mark up quite a bit. And then we give you all kinds of practice and support. We help to identify specific weaknesses for a student and push them individualized homework to help them improve just the areas that they're suffering with and kind of take a break on the areas that they're doing well on. All right, that's all we need for SSAT. Let's move on. All right, here's the big one. The SAT is a standardized test you will have to pass if you want to go to almost any prestigious American school. If you have your heart set on going to California, don't take this test. You don't need to. It's hard. It's going to take up a lot of your time. It's going to take up a lot of your energy. It can be demoralizing to try to prep this test. I recommend that you begin in the 10th grade. If you are no longer in the 10th grade, you are behind. You're behind other people who you will be directly competing with to get a high mark on this test. Summer's a great time to start, especially if you're somebody who's a little bit behind. I always recommend that you take multiple tests. This helps take some of the pressure off of the first one. And if you've already been there once, you have a better shot the second time. There's less nerves. Depends on who you are as a person. I'll try to be brief here because many of the things from the SSAT still apply to the SAT. So, for example, the test is also written in its own language. Its language bears some similarities to the SSAT, but there are obvious differences. This test has a very high demanding math section. We're not here for a math seminar. It also has a very high demanding language section. It's going to ask you to decipher 5 passages. These passages subdivide into 3 categories. The first one is literature. This is usually the hardest one, though many students at Linkkey are already excelling in math and science, so it's not surprising that literature is the difficult part. It's going to ask you to take apart a difficult passage by Edgar Allan Poe or Charles Dickens or Mark Twain. It's always some literary giant, and they always throw you right into the middle of a chapter with almost no context whatsoever, and you're usually reading language that's about 150 to 200 years old, so you might not understand all of the words being used. Everything happening on the SAT is a passive vocabulary test. They will throw very difficult high-level words at you and give you no support to understand them whatsoever, and then ask you to answer a question involving that word. And if you don't know that word, you could miss a question that wasn't tagged as vocabulary, but ultimately was on vocabulary. After the literature passage, you have 2 more sets. We've got one that is predominantly on STEM, so there'll be like a science passage. It'll explain to you the way Louis Pasteur invented the rabies vaccine. Some students excel on these. These are usually the hardest ones for me because I get bored halfway through. So active note-taking techniques, ways that you can break down a passage so you're answering as many questions as quickly as you can to keep your mind engaged. They're very important tactics here. The final section is culture and history. You might get a speech from Martin Luther King Jr. or the Declaration of Independence will come up quite a bit. And again, you're looking at old language, legalistic terms, heavily political. If you're reading a speech that John F. Kennedy gave, you have to understand that he was elected president during the Cold War and the height of the Civil Rights Movement. If you're reading LBJ talking about equality among man, he's not talking about women's right to vote. He's talking about the right of Black people to vote. If you're reading a speech from 1918 talking about the right to vote, you are hearing about the women's suffragette movement. So understanding of American culture and American history can be quite important. I have a specific section down here on the slide that says the test is designed for a high-performing American high school student. We have a slight advantage coming from Canada because we get a lot of American culture up here. Most of us know the rules of baseball, for example. Most of us can name more American presidents than we can Canadian prime ministers. Especially if you've been glued to politics for the last couple of years, you know, like the name of Trump's press secretary and stuff like that, because it was just such news up here. This gives us an edge that students coming from Europe and Asia don't have, but it's still not enough. We have to do more work to try to make up that gap, because there are just certain shorthands that the test will assume you know. This cultural bias and this language bias are intentionally built into the test, because the test is designed in such a way that it makes it harder for people not coming from America to do well on it. If you've done any kind of research on the SAT, you have also heard that it's very difficult for people, even in America, coming from low means to do well on the test. This is specifically because the test is designed to need prep agencies, because it's much, much harder to do well on the test if you haven't been properly prepared, regardless of how smart you are. That's not fair. There's a lot of things about the test that I don't like. It doesn't change the fact that it's still standing there in the way of possibly your dreams to go to a high-performing school like Yale or Harvard. So at Linkey, we do our best to help our students get over these barriers. Instead of shaking our fists at the existence of the barriers, we accept that they're there and we do what we can to get people through them.
Beautiful, thank you, Matt. Okay, let's see. Henry, did you want to do some translating now?
Sorry, you are talking to me?
Yeah, did you want to do some translating now?
Sure. Can you flip back a few more slides? Yeah. Yeah, that's good. 我用中文很快，大概1-2分钟把刚刚 Janelle 和 Matt 讲的东西，我用中文帮大家稍微聚拢一下哈。那这个其实是跟大家讲，就是其实英语的分数，我们在平常刚刚 Janelle 讲的几个例子哈，我们在平常其实英语你在学校里面，不管是高中还是大学，坦白讲，你想拿高分不太容易了，因为老师在学校这种教学当中他给的很多东西不足以让你能够拿到高分，所以当然我们其中一个很重要的一个任务，但是今天可能不一定有时间，我们把它完全展开讲。那过去我曾经讲过，就是我们的Ontario 的整个的学校的英语的 curriculum 的设置比如说9年级之前整个的安省的设置是 language， 9年级之后是 literature。我们用它举个例子，就是说，但是 language 和 literature 之间实际上是有一个很大的一个跨越。那很多学生到了9年级之后，因为不适应 literature， 我们叫英文文学，那他就很难能够拿到高分但是在整个的 Ontario Ministry 的 curriculum 设计当中，其实他并没有去考虑这些问题这就是我们在我们的 Linkey 的英语 program 里面，我们最重要的一个工作就是要在 language 和 literature 之间帮助大家去修这个台阶让孩子能够比较平稳的能够过渡到 literature。那么他们到9年级的时候，到10年级的时候，11、12年级的时候，还可以继续取得一个非常好的一个英文的分数我们来举一个例子。OK， Janelle, next one. Yeah, so this one. 我们的英语课程的设置呢，这个是给大家一个导航图那我们的这个很重要，我希望大家能够把这个记下来，或者你可以做一个截屏那这个我们一共有3条线第一条线就是刚刚我讲的叫 literature， 是或者我们叫英文文学为什么我没有讲 language？ 因为 language 我们把它 基本上包含在了 literature 和后面的这个 writing 这2条线当中那当然 language 是我们的所有的内容的一个foundation 它是一个基础。当然这个基础很重要，但是呢，你只有这个基础是不够不管你是几年级，我们需要在这个基础的基础上去帮助大家去搭建不管是英文文学还是写作等一下我们就讲到这2条线。所以第一条线是我们的英文文学，我们从4年级开始，我们可以看到这个橘红色的这个4年级一直到12年级。那我们的第2条线实际上就是我们的写作那写作呢，包括5、6年级、7、8年级、9、10年级，然后最后我们这个 persuasive 和 synthesis essay， 这是一个很重要的一个这个文书写作然后在写作当中有2个非常重要的概念，希望大家记住一个叫 passion， 一个叫 precision。刚才 Matt 也讲了当然我现在讲的可能不是完全按照他的幻灯片的顺序那 passion 主要就是你的写作的热情，你写作的这种源泉或者我们叫创作的这种欲望precision 指的是你的写作的精准度或者我们叫文笔所以这2个你是缺一不可的，你既要有写作的这种热情，同时你要有好的文笔这样你才能写出好的文章来。不管这个文章是什么样的这种文体我们在中文当中有叙述有记叙文，有议论文，有说明文，有诗歌、散文、小说等等不管这是任何一种文体，这2个要素都必须要具备。那在我们具备了 literature 和刚才我们说写作之后，我们在最后右侧有一个蓝色的这个我们叫 University Application Essay 和 Interview， 实际上我们直接指向的就是你的大学申请。我们的课程的设计就是帮助大家能够真正的你能够在你的大学申请当中变得更加的有竞争力这个所以我们的目标非常的明确就是让我们的孩子能够在他的大学申请当中非常的有竞争力，然后能够进到他们最想去的这个不管是美国还是加拿大还是其他国家的这种大学所以当然我们还有一个最后还有一条线在这个图上没有展现出来，但是刚刚我们有讲到，就是我们叫标准化考试不管是 SSAT 还是 SAT。SSAT 是如果你想要申请私立的，尤其是私立的中学比如说多伦多的这个UTS、UCC 像 BSS、Branson Hall 这样的私立最好的私立中学，那你通常来讲是需要 SSAT 的考试。如果你想要申请美国的大学常春藤大学或者任何的美国的大学，你需要 SAT 的考试这2个是不同的，一个是考中学，一个是考大学。OK, next slide。这个我刚才已经讲过了，我就不多说了literature 刚才我们讲了很多关于 language 和 literature。OK, next one。这个我要多说一句，刚刚 Matt 有一句话让我非常印象深刻，他说我们的 creative writing， 我们的创意型写作的班会让孩子喜欢到他认为比他打电子游戏，他认为比他在外面去玩都会有意思这个我是相信的。如果大家看过以前我们的学生，我们每一期学生最后他们的 creative writing 出来的这个作品，你们也会相信这段话，因为他们会在整个这个过程当中会非常的给他们带来很多的乐趣和开心因为这种创作就是孩子在很小的时候他的这种创作，他看到自己最后创作出来的这种结果，我们最后会把他们创作的结果给他们编辑成一本书在一个专用的一个工具叫issue上可以发表出来那大家可以看到最后这本书，我们家长都可以看到孩子的名字都在这本书上那个果实的最后的那种喜悦感 像麦的说的，会让孩子们觉得超越他们打游戏也好，或者其他的一些很有意思的活动啊。OK， next one。Writing precision， 刚才我们讲的就是写作的精准度，就是我们叫文笔啊。OK，next one。这个标化考试啊 ，SSAT 和 SAT， 刚才我也讲过了哈，就很快的把它过去。OK，next one。Next slide. Yeah, that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, thank you. I think Teresa's here.
Yes, she is. Welcome in, T. We'll be talking in just a little while. Oh,
hello, everyone.
Introduce yourself right now. You're off mute.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Hello, everyone. I'll keep this very short and brief. My apologies for being late. I had a previous appointment before this, but my name is Teresa, aka T, and I teach a lot of the upper classes at Linky English, as well as I will be teaching SSAT this summer for all of you kids and parents who have signed up for that course here. I sincerely apologize for my voice, you guys. I am still a little bit sick at this time, so I might be taking a couple little breaths at times when I'm talking, but I'm really excited to get to see both returning parents, returning students, and as well as new parents and new students kind of coming to our program and seeing what we're all about. I will pass the mic back to Janelle, and I'll let you get taking this on the way. Thanks, Janelle.
No worries, T. Okay, so in terms of support, we are really committed to ensuring that your child or the students here are ideally reading and writing above grade level. Minimum, it is at their grade level, but if they are above their grade level, obviously those grades are going to look very good, but they are going to be prepped for the coming grades. And what we like to do here is ensure that they are being challenged so that they are getting a little bit more than they would typically be getting in school. And the way that we're able to ensure that is by a couple of things. So one being the class sizes. So on average, we have 5 to 8 students per class. And this is really good because this allows us one-on-one between the students and the teacher, even in the class or even in a group setting. So there's often times when students, submit a school assignment that they have due the next week. And what we'll do is take a couple minutes to go through their assignment, where usually we're able to catch a lot of the, maybe like punctuation or grammar or sentence flow issues that would have most likely reduced the mark that they received. This past semester, a couple of my students were able to get their grades back in time to inform me that they got A's or A pluses from the assignments that we worked on together in class. So that was really, really good to hear. Let me see, anything else that I want to add on to this one? No, I think that basically covers it. So in terms of grade level, what we noticed was that, especially given the pandemic years, so from 2020 till now-ish, though it kind of feels like we're no longer in a pandemic, but we noticed especially that there were a lot of students coming to us writing and reading at a level that was lower than where they ought to have been. In other words, there were a lot of mistakes that they hadn't yet outgrown or hadn't yet learned how to fix or change. And so right now we're doing a lot of reiteration and catch up so that they can get to this bracket here of either in between grade level or above grade level, or the above grade level. Now, the focus for each child is different, and this is also something that we've noticed as well. So in terms of how we assess these students. So we have diagnostic tests. So whether the student is a new student for us, there will be an entry-level diagnostic test. And then within the class itself, the beginning classes, we perform a diagnostic test to get an idea of where the student is. And so from there, we track their progress through a class discussion, through the assignments that they give us, through the homework that they submit. And by the end of the semester, we get a good compilation of all of their work. And then we plot it onto our tool, which are our radar charts. And so our radar charts are meant to show progress. So showing where your student or your child started from and where they ended off in the semester. Now, we do it from like semester to semester. So the change that is seen won't be exponential, but over the years where they're starting at to where they finish off when they eventually graduate and go to post-secondary school is really, really good to see. Oh, Hamada is coming in here, so hopefully he will we'll pass the mic on to him briefly. And so by the end of this, we're able to see how far they've come and to look at the areas where there might not have been as much progress or where there might have been a lot of progress. And so to give you an example, we have a grade 7 student here. So on the top are the values, and they are plotted on our radar chart. So just looking at it immediately, the visual shows that they started off with not the greatest of critical thinking or analysis skills. And then by the end of the semester, they were doing a lot better at that. And overall, though, they have improved in other areas. So with this student in particular, we really made it a point to improve their critical analysis skills because we know that that is one of the most important categories that high schools focus on. And so we really made it a point to target that. However, by us targeting that and also looking at the other components, we were also able to improve their marks in the other categories. And then you see with the 11th grade students that there is an additional category. So with application now, we're going into how they are able to truly apply what it is that they've learned outside of the classroom, or to make connections between what they're learning now and what they experience on like a more global scale, if you will. So to break it down a little bit more specifically between the two, let's go back here. Oops, let's go back here. So we had reading comprehension, we had writing and editing, we had critical thinking and analysis, and then we had vocabulary and grammar. And then for the upper grades, so high school, we add in the application category. So here we see the student again is improving analysis, improving quite a bit, but we also see that their reading comprehension and their writing saw a lot of change as well. So again, depending on where the student is, we get a sense of what exactly it is we want to target with the outcome of improving all of the different categories as much as possible. And so this is what the parents receive. So they would have received the before at the beginning of the semester, and then the after at the end of the semester around report card season. And from there, it provides that visual of how their student or child has progressed. In addition to this, though, you are also seeing marks that we give back to the students for the assignments that they submit to us, for the homework as well that they submit to us. And I kind of want to answer Charles's question right here now in terms of the process. So the way that, Okay, yeah, perfect. So the way that it works is we have like summaries and basically mini assignments on a weekly basis that aids towards what we are focusing on in class, in addition to larger assignments. So whether that be writing a short story for the creative writing element, or creating or writing an essay. And so each week they are given homework to complete. And then from there, we give them grades on a consistent basis, as well as feedback. So this is also really helpful too for when they have school assignments. So we'll usually check in with them. Do you have any school assignments? If we know that they're taking English that particular semester, and we'll go through what is expected of them in that assignment. And then we will also give them feedback on that as well. Okay, so there are a lot of touch points that the parents and students get throughout the semester. Okay, we have some testimonials here. So to briefly summarize them, from RL, from English Lit, they really enjoyed being taught. There are a lot of components that they didn't learn in school that they were able to learn from Matt. And Matt is also a very charismatic teacher. And so they also really enjoyed that time as well, which is also really important to us because we want our students, like Matt had mentioned earlier, to want to come to class. And especially with it being English, like English doesn't necessarily have the best reputation for being a fun and exciting class. So we really try to do our best to make it engaging. Like I've substituted some of Teresa's classes, and sometimes she'll have, you know, in her slide presentation, a photo of her dog Luna. And so it's a really nice thing just to see throughout the semester how the teachers really try their best to make it fun and interactive. Then we have Michelle, a 12th grader, really enjoying Ms. Teresa's classes, and she has incredible lectures, also something we really pride ourselves on. And she really enjoyed the time there. And then for Dr. Hamada's university application, essay and interview class, the course is very beneficial to writing the most effective essay, university essay. And they really enjoyed the time and patience that Dr. Hamada took in helping them in succeed for the future. And so again, just really showing that we really, really pride ourselves in doing a good job with our students here. So Hamada, you are here. I briefly went over the writing precision stream, but if you want to briefly take a couple minutes to say what you wanted to say, and then we can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Janelle. Thank you. Good evening, students and parents. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time and you coming just to join us in this seminar. My name is Hamada Kassam. I have a master's and PhD degrees from the UK. I have worked at Linky with this wonderful team for something like 3 years now. And we have seen a lot of amazing moments in terms of students' growth and, great results, actually. I wanted just to brief you on just a quick second. I can't see the screen there, Janelle.
Everybody else see the screen? Maybe I will stop sharing.
Yeah, I have the presentation in front of me, while you are just showing the screen again. Can you hear me, Janelle, everybody? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep.
Thank you, thank you. So we created a very, very robust, very powerful writing program, my colleagues and I, and we have actually helped many students in the last 2 or 3 years in terms of growth when it comes to written communication. We have thought really carefully and closely of how we can combine a variety of skills when it comes to writing. The strength of our team comes mainly from the fact that we have high degrees, like masters and degrees, all of us. And we know we managed actually to bridge the gap. We have been always thinking of how we can prepare our students to be amazing communicators in terms of, let me say, writing, in terms of public speaking, in terms of visual communication occasionally with their projects at Linky. But we have been thinking of how we can deliver the best, let me say, curriculum for our students so that they can be ready for university. So hence our focus on critical thinking, analytical skills, these, powerful skills that constitute eventually a powerful skill set that every student needs for the future in terms of university education and the job market beyond. So my part of the writing program focuses on precision. You have heard from my colleagues about creativity and about things to do with literature. So we created a program consisting of 3 stages, starting with grades 7 to 9 writing program, besides focus on grammar actually. So we focus on sentence structures. As you can see, there are some bullet points in front of you. We focus on the common errors, the most common errors that students make that are costing them grades at school. And those are mainly the run-on sentences, such as comma splices and fused sentences, and sentence fragments, which are incomplete sentences. Usually, teachers at school write something on the margin, like avoid run-on sentence or fragment. Here, we walk our students by the hand, actually. We take them by the hand, we explain what the mistake is and how it can be changed using 5, 6, 7 methods, actually, in terms of producing those mistakes or editing them as simple sentences, as compound sentences, complex ones, using linking words sometimes. So students, after mastering the basic structures, which is the foundation of good writing, they come to the resolution that I am a good writer. There is no more writer blocks anymore. So if I find it difficult, for example, to express myself, I can use a variety of other methods, actually. So this is the significance of highlighting common errors and how we can avoid them. I created documents something like 5 years ago when I was teaching overseas at university, titled 50 Different Ways of Starting Sentences in English. That was the juice, actually, of a summer research that I conducted, going through journal articles, books, websites, looking for every possible way of starting a sentence in English. My students have always said, like, we have printed that document and we are actually, using it for our production, and it's showing like a good quality and good results. Our teachers love it at school, at regular school. We focus as well on the flow of writing in terms of coherence and cohesion, using a variety of transitions. Transitions is a very significant academic writing component, dealing with the use of, let me say, coordinators like for, and, but, nor, yet. Subordinators, words used in complex sentences, although notwithstanding, despite the fact that we try to, to raise the academic level there in terms of expression. So those are really significant things, cohesion and transition. We think about linking words as well when we move to big words connecting 2 sentences, separate sentences, such as however, moreover, nevertheless. While we're focusing on sentence structures, we focus on boosting vocabulary, synonyms, words with the same meanings, antonyms, opposites, and collocations. Collocations are words that float within one topic. We emphasize to our students the significance of using, a variety of words related to, let me say, to one topic, so that they can, tick off a very significant box in the process of writing and grading, which is, not repeating themselves in terms of vocabulary and in terms of structures. We focus on 3 different types of voices in communication, written communication, and that's something to do with the active, negative, and passive voice. The passive voice is a sign of academic writing, like a debate and public speaking. And this is something our students need in terms of distancing themselves from the process of writing. We don't want them to use I that much in the writing. We want them to use academic structures, which we help them with through the use of the passive voice. And generally, the aim of this part of the writing program, which is called precision, the word is synonymous with accuracy. So we want our students to write without any fault and to write smoothly, to have, let me say, like a free flow in terms of the pen or the strokes of the keyboard itself. And we do that by focusing on a variety of rhetorical modes, different types of writing. So that's the second stage of the writing program, taking them from sentence structures all the way to different paragraphs, compare and contrast, cause and effect, description, process. There are 7-8 rhetorical modes there. So we want students to master those things while they are midway through the writing program. After that, they become ready to produce longer, let me say, structures or longer pieces of writing. And I'm talking here about essays, where they master different types of introductions. They can produce effective thesis statements responding to a prompt at school. They know the significance of producing topic sentences that give a good idea about what the paragraph is about. They create a good spine for the essay through the thesis statement, and we get them through other skills, academic skills, such as writing effective summaries, paraphrases, and quotations to avoid plagiarism, and how they can use APA citation style for social sciences and MLA citation style for literature. So it's a complete, comprehensive process. We're always ahead of regular school. We know actually what our students want and how they can differentiate themselves from their classmates. So we try just to, to underscore the significance of written communication in terms of boosting other skills, such as like debating or public speaking. Those skills will not develop naturally unless a student or a young learner is capable of producing like good structures writing wise. So that was my part, and we thank you for being here with us this evening. Yeah, Janelle.
Okay, so we're gonna briefly go through the rest. We do want to be mindful of time. So in terms of mastery, there are some common mistakes that students make. I'm gonna go through this, and then T's gonna just quickly talk about, add a little bit more to this. So we tend to find that between grades 4 to 6, there's a misuse of punctuation and capitalization, right? Or like a misuse of homophones. So they don't know when to use there with the IR and there RE, and then the there with the apostrophe, which is really they are. So we really help them break that down and are clear on when to use what. Grades 7 to 9, as Hamada said, a lot of run-on sentences, comma splices. So we really try to help them break down how to write better sentences. And then grades 10 to 12, it is continuing this process because again, you might know how to do it or know the idea, the essence of it, but then when practicing, you need a little bit more work to finally hone in that skill. And so based on that, we take a lot of what we know to be the mistakes, and we really try to structure our work, curriculum, our lectures around helping students improve this. T, do you want to briefly expand on this?
I definitely can. I'm going to try to talk as loudly as possible, you guys, but I apologize. My voice is still not 100% here. But kind of just to go off of what Janelle said, especially with our grade 10 to 12 students, a lot of them within high school right now are kind of going down this one track path of certain books they have to read in high school, maybe a play or two by Shakespeare, and they're kind of taught and pigeonholed within certain realms of when writing. And that's not the proper way to learn how to write, though. And it especially comes to a case when they reach their university stages, maybe their first year going into college and whatnot. and they reach the classroom and they don't exactly know how to write a paper and they receive a 55% on their first assignment. It's jarring and can be actually really disheartening for students who once were achieving very high academic marks to be getting something like a 50 or a 55 within a university setting. So what we like to do, especially starting around grade 9 and then going up into the older grades, is that we like to target and combine learning about English and English literature together. And what we have found that has been doing is that it helps to fast track students learning about how to better articulate their ideas, how to understand better grammar, better syntax, diction, semantics, and how to more properly actually communicate their ideas in a very digestible and impactful way that can be easily understood by readers, but is also highbrow enough that it's not considered as simple writing. So what we do a lot at Linky is we try to work with a lot of the predetermined lines that are given within, especially like public school, high school, private school curriculums. But we also like to go outside of those bounds and see, for example, why are students still using the active and passive voice? Well, they're not totally shown what can be active and what can be passive. On top of that, they don't totally know the difference between voice and tense, and then teachers don't explain that to them, and that can become confusing. What we like to do in our classrooms is to not only walk through and explain those ideas, but also to really actively work with them to give examples. And we go through either it could be their schoolwork, it could be their papers that they write for us, or even just simple homework that we give them. And we go through all of these recommended suggestions, corrections, techniques, and they're able to learn along the way how they're able to better correct and understand why these corrections are made, while also in tandem still working towards getting a higher mark. And then when they reach university in that first year, rather than feeling afraid and having to kind of learn how to learn all over again, they actually have the tools to really go about writing a really good paper. Could be either for a humanities paper, but it could also be something for a science report where they need to be able to discern proper language in order to communicate their findings. I'll give that back to you, Janelle. My voice is just about out at this point.
Right, no worries, no worries.
I was laughing earlier as I heard Teresa tell that story. You can tell Teresa, Janelle, and I all went to the University of Toronto because we all have that exact same story about our first essay there. I hadn't gotten below a 90 on a paper for like a year, and I got destroyed as soon as I went to that school. And all of us have kind of decided, never again, I'm never going to let one of my students go through that. Because I want to echo her sentiment here, traditional high school does not teach you how to write at the university level. And so absolutely in the older grades, this is a high priority for us, teaching kids to get over that hump, because as Teresa says, having to completely rebuild the way that you write when you get to university is akin to replacing the wings on an aircraft while you're already in the air. You want to do that on the ground in a safe, supportive environment like we provide, instead of tanking your first year university marks because you don't actually know how to write like an adult, despite what your high school teachers told you.
Exactly. So to quickly wrap us up, year-round learning from spring, from summer, from fall, no matter when you come in, you are going to be learning a lot of good information from us. And so we are focusing on the summer semester. So we've broken them up into 2 separate semesters. We have the July semester for the 4 weeks and August for the 4 weeks. This really makes it easy because I know a lot of folks are going to be traveling. So you still get to be taught and get to be prepped for the next school year while also enjoying your vacation. And so because of this, we are really going to be immersing the students into reading and analysis and essay writing. Okay, so by the end of the 4 weeks, they are going to either be refreshed or going to have learned the major components when understanding how to analyze literary text, as well as writing clear, succinct essays. This is a quick look at our book list for the year. This is also the other section. I will put this back up on the screen as we're taking questions. And then last, we never repeat the same book twice in the same school year. And then lastly, fall semester is also open for enrollment if you want to begin exploring that. Thank you so much, everyone. We're now going to take some Q&As. Or if Henry wants to translate anything.
Sure. I think we're gonna get to the Q&A first.
Sure.
And then if we got time, then I can do some more Chinese translation. Okay, so there's a question from Lee. Does Linky offer the course analysis of the masterpieces of Shakespeare? Who wants to take this question?
So we did in the spring camp, we did 5 days of Shakespeare, where Matt broke down the major plays that high school students are going to experience. And we actually want to make that a larger course. For right now, though, we incorporate a lot of Shakespeare's plays throughout each year. So where there is at least one play that we dissect in the school year. If anyone wants to add on to that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the book list for the coming semester, the one that Janelle presented on the screen, you will see there's some Shakespeare pieces.
Give us the
right?
next slide, Janelle. That's where they are on this one.
Yeah.
I usually do in grade 7-8 writing. I focus on King Lear actually.
Yeah. So Shakespeare is a big part, I would say the most, important part in our curriculum, I mean, literature curriculum. So you will find Shakespeare pretty much from every grade.
Yeah, Shakespeare is going to show up in your high school curriculum guaranteed. Pretty much everybody who's gone to high school in Ontario has learned Romeo and Juliet in grade 9. So we will teach it either in the fall semester of grade 9 or in the spring or summer of grade 8. We move it around to make sure that we don't get duplicate books to kids multiple years in a row. So for example, if you were with us for grade 8, you're not going to get Romeo and Juliet again in grade 9. So we actually rotate it out every 2 years between the two grades. Romeo and Juliet's a big feature. We'll get Othello for grade 10. King Lear, as Hamada mentioned, King Lear Hamada does a very in-depth look into King Lear in grade 7-8. Kids come out of that class incredibly well prepared for King Lear. Julius Caesar for grade 11, grade 12, Othello for grade 10, Hamlet for grade 12. We have Shakespeare all over this class, and we work really, really hard to help students be able to understand it, because these books are about 400 years old and written in a form of English that is no longer used today. So it's half poetry, half storytelling, and we put a lot of time into Shakespeare. I'm very, very proud of the way and the level to which we teach Shakespeare at Linky.
Yeah. 我用中文讲一下 Okay, I'll do a bit of Chinese translation on this one because I think this is a pretty good question. 我用中文讲一下，就是其实我们刚才讲过这个安省的课程设置，就是 language 和 literature 的这个区别哈。那我们更多的是帮助大家修这个台阶，因为 literature 在高年级当中是基本都是 literature 9年级以上啊。那 literature 在莎士比亚 Shakespeare 是 literature 里面最重要的一个组成部分。所以回答您的问题就是我们有没有课程去这个做这种莎士比亚戏剧著名的莎士比亚戏剧的分析？答案肯定是肯定的，就是我们几乎每一个班级、几乎每一个课每一个年级都会有莎士比亚的这种戏剧。那当然 analysis 就是我们叫文学分析是其中非常重要的一个组成部分哈。Janelle 提到了我们今年在春假期间，我们曾经有过一门课，那是1个星期集中的一门课，就是在1个星期之内，我们讲5篇莎士比亚的戏剧每天1篇当然那个是一个 crash course， 就一个很快速的一个速成 那在我们的平常的学习当中，我们都是有这种 in-depth analysis， 就是我们叫深度的、深入的这种莎士比亚戏剧的这个文学分析啊。所以回答你这个问题是非常非常好的一个问题。然后Janelle, can you go back to the reader chart, the 2 slides? I just want to do a bit of summary in Chinese. 我稍微给大家用中文说一下我们的这个雷达星图啊，因为这个坦白讲，我们花了很多时间，我们的所有的老师，包括我们的这个管理团队啊，花了很长时间来开发和分析，用怎么样的一个工具，能够比较直观的、比较可视性的给大家展现目前的学习状态。那这个当然是我们的真实的学生的真实的数据啊。比如说，这个是11年级的一个学生，我们第一张图是他参加我们这个课第1节课我们的做的一个测试。那第2张图是这个课程将近结束之前，大概就是我们1个学期之后我们做的一个测试啊，然后做出的一个图形的分析。所以你可以看到这2个之间的差别啊。我们一共分成5个知识点，5个知识领域啊，一个叫 reading， 一个叫 application， 一个叫 vocabulary， 一个叫 analysis， 一个叫 writing。所以我们在 reading 这一块，它从71% 成长到了进步到了75%， writing 74到78，后面的数字我就不读了，大家可以看这个analysis 它是从67到了70等等。所以这个是很直观的给大家一个这种马上的一个数字，或者说给大家一个图形，让你看到你的这种进步，或者说让你看到你在哪个地方是长项，哪个地方是你稍微比较短板一点的，但是需要补强的地方啊。Janelle, can you go back to grade 7 or grade 8 reader chart? 这个是我们一个7年级的学生哈，所以你看到他刚刚进来的时候，他这个图是扁的啊，尤其最底下那块是缺了一块啊，就我们叫 critical thinking analysis 啊，这个很明显就是它最下面这块好像是缺掉了一块。那我们大概是在不到一个学期，这个3个月之后，大概这个之后。我们看到这一块明显的就变得很就是变圆了啊，就那一块我们它补强了啊，所以就是这个就是我们的课程设计，包括刚才我们说的这种工具使用，就是我们知道孩子是目前是一个什么状态，哪个地方我们需要帮助到他，哪个地方需要增强啊，然后在每一个这种，如果我们想做，我们在每一个点上，我们都可以把这个图形给学生们做出来啊。这个是我们自己 LinkedIn 我们自己开发的啊。目前我个人认为，我觉得是非常非常有效的。OK， let's go back to Q&A. I think there's a question asking about the homework. Oh, here it is. It's question from Charles. What is the homework system for English class? Such as submission, marks, feedbacks, system consistent across all level of classes. Janelle, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I briefly mentioned it in the presentation. So yes, it is the same across all the grades of diagnostic tests and radar charts from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester. And then throughout the semester, it is the weekly assignments, the larger unit assignments, as well as getting writing feedback usually from Google Classroom or in class as well. There is another question.
Before that, I just want to add one thing. Pretty much the single most important goal for our English program or English teaching is to help students get into their dream school. I'm talking about universities, right? To achieve that, we want to make sure that the students, they all get high grade at their school. So we'll do everything we can. We'll do everything we have to help students achieve that goal, right? Which is high mark at school, and then the dream universities. 我用中文讲一下，就是刚才这个问题我觉得很好，就是说我们的作业系统、我们的反馈系统、我们的所有的这种submission、homework 等等哈，那我们所有的英语组，包括我自己，包括我们的这个钟宪老师啊，我们的所有的团队，其实我们有一个唯一的一个目标，就是帮助我们的 Linky 的学生们进到他们的梦想的大学。所以我们周六有这样的一个讲座，就是我们今年的这些优秀毕业生，这个刚才我们讲过哈佛、普林斯顿等等这些学校，斯坦福这些学校的毕业生，他们来给我们分享这种我们叫传帮带啊，就是他们来给我们分享他们过去的这种好像有一个话筒没有关我帮您关一下 ，OK 他来帮助我们分享，给我们的这些学弟学妹们分享他们的经验、他们的体会啊。那对于我们来说，就是说，在你能够我们能够使用的所有的方法、工具、能力上，帮助我们的孩子拿到学校的最高分啊。然后我们刚才讲过了，英语的重要性，对他大学升学的重要性。首先就是你的英语的在校分数啊，这个非常非常，我就不用说它有多重要了，这个因为大家都知道啊。其次，英语作为一个工具，它在你的任何一个其他的课程当中都会发挥作用。这个你们可以感觉到，英语，如果你的英语好，如果你的英语强，你的这种分析、思考、写作、口头表达能力强的话，它给你带来的这种如鱼得水的这种优势，在任何一个课程当中，包括数学，包括我们的所谓的理工类的课程啊，都是这样，好吗 ？OK， there's another question from Charles. What is the most three important factors for a grade 11, grade 12 student to get high English score?
I can take this question, Henry. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Hey there, Charles. Again, I'm so sorry about my voice. I'm really hoping I'm being loud enough. If I'm not, you guys, please do let me know. I know I can also talk a bit quietly. But with grade 11 and 12, there are actually a lot of overlapping like hindrances within writing, but also things that we can really touch on. Specifically, though, if I had to pinpoint the three things that are the biggest things that I always try to tackle and things that I see that are patterns within a student's writing is firstly for them to use elevated language, but language that is also very accessible and also appealing to the reader. And what I mean by that is sometimes students will believe that they need to go to the thesaurus and reach the biggest words possible and plug those into their paper in order to make it sound academic. And that's not the case. You want to use actually complex writing, but not so in a way that kind of misreaches your readers or doesn't make your readers understand what you're saying. So one of the big things I like to tackle with students, and one of the biggest problems that I find, is for them to actually dial down some of the language that they use and know that sometimes the most simplest words are actually the most effective and the most academic within writing. Secondly, which is kind of silly, but it's actually the intrusion of the passive voice. And what I mean by that specifically is at times, and as like a lot of students who especially take classes with us at Linky, they learn how to identify the active voice, the negative voice, and also the passive voice within writing. But sometimes it still tends to sneak into their writing, especially with the passive voice. And that's because the passive voice is actually really attractive to the ear. It's really nice for us to think about, and we often sometimes think in the passive voice. And when we put our thoughts down on paper, we don't always change them back because we think that people can understand them. And that's one of the biggest problems with students. Sometimes they'll put down their thoughts on paper and it will be a well-written sentence or a paragraph, but parts of it will kind of dive into the passive voice and then go back to active and go back to passive. And it actually makes for a very disjointed writing and reading experience. And one of the biggest things, and especially with university professors, is one of their biggest proponents to getting bad marks for, or giving, sorry, bad marks for students, is because they actually don't understand how to use and how to when and when not to use the active and passive voice. And thirdly, the biggest thing I would say, especially teaching within the grade 11, grade 12 setting, is also teaching students how to write airtight arguments, but ones that are not specifically only plot or data driven. There are times where students need to go outside and research for their arguments, or they really need to understand how to closely read a text in order to get the best possible argument out, or to make something that actually seems plausible. And I'd love to teach students how to go more in depth into those problems, because especially within a high school classrooms, a lot of teachers unfortunately don't really have the time to teach students how to really get into a text, how to properly analyze it, and how to actually extract their ideas and make them into these solid arguments, and the ones that are expected within this, like a university beyond spectrum. Those are the, my apologies. Those are, I think, the three big things that I like to tackle within the classroom, but more specifically, the three biggest problems that I find a lot of students are still having, not because for a lack of trying or anything, but just because they're problems that are so consistent and we don't realize that we do them. And it's just about trying to train like your brain on how to recognize them right away and how to ultimately avoid them within writing. I hope that answers the question, Charles. I'll let you take it back to Henry or Janelle.
Thank you so much. T, hope you feel better. Okay, question from Gary. Is there a writing class for grade 10? Yes, there is. Dr. Amanda, do you want to shine a bit light on this one?
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you, Gary, for the question. Actually, we have two options in terms of writing beyond grade 10. You can either think of the literature stream we have, like a grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, where we have the writing component incorporated as well. So you happen to focus on one literary or two literary work there besides this continuous focus on writing in terms of, you are in high school, so that should be something to do with essay writing and those advanced academic writing skills. So they're there. The other option you can think of beyond the literature stream is another course that comes after the writing program, and this is University Application Essay and Interview. And this is a course that focuses on writing common and supplemental essays for different programs. The course focuses on university applications and programs. I happen to co-teach this course with a fresh graduate from Linky, somebody who has got a scholarship at the University of Waterloo. He's doing economics there. His name is Eric Zhu, an amazing student actually, who is still fresh about the university application. He's quite knowledgeable about programs, and he got several admissions actually from different universities, and he was lucky just to get that scholarship, So we happen to teach that course that focuses on programs, dream universities. If you're thinking of something, we can help you there. I focus on essays taken from Harvard and Yale in terms of the process of composition and submission. So we tell students, by the way, there are amazing students who missed out on the process of getting admitted to their dream universities because they were not aware of the fact that university application essays are different from academic essays, which we submit in high school. So that's something every student should be aware of, by the way. And that course is tailored actually to serve that purpose. And besides the focus on university application essay, I happen to focus on academic writing for students who missed the academic program at Linky. And there is a good actually gallery of skills, advanced skills, because we're talking about grade 10, 11, and 12. So yeah, either the literature stream or university application essay and interview. Those would be your options, Gary.
Thank you, Dr. Amanda. There's a question from Henry. My son will attend SSCT this autumn. Curious that, what's the SSCT mainly teaching? Can you do a brief introduction about the class? He needs improvement for verbal and reading. Teresa or Matt, can you take on this one?
Yeah, I got this. Hey there, Henry. I'm excited to meet your son who's going to be coming to the class. I will be the SSAT teacher for this summer as well as for the upcoming fall semester. So I will be the one that he will be seeing. I actually really highly encourage him, however, if you would like, to actually go into the July program that we have now, because I actually have one spot left for that. So I would love to see him in there. But if not, there is still room for August and also the fall, curriculum of the SSAT. But to kind of go over more of your question, Henry, part of the SSAT that I teach is I teach everything but the math portion. The math portion is taught by a separate teacher at Linky, and she is absolutely brilliant. I am the worst person at math, so you would not want me teaching anyone math. I know 1 + 1 is 2, and that's it. But more specifically with the English parts of all the exam, I go through every section of it. So the reading, the verbal, as well as there is a writing section of the exam, which either asks students to either write a short creative story or to answer a argumentative, create an argumentative essay on a question that they give out. So how I usually like to go with SSAT is I will usually start with the reading components, and we break down kind of the sections of the exam. We go through some different strategies to kind of tackle each section of the exam. And then we also do a lot of like in-class practicing, and I also give a lot of homework just so that way they're consistently practicing with these strategies that they're learning. After the reading, I always like to do writing because it goes really well with the reading section, my apologies, Henry. The verbal section is what I start with first, and then that's where I go through all that. Then I go into the writing section, followed by the reading section at the end of the semester. The writing section usually takes the most time for students, so I always like to put that in the middle of the semester, so that way we have a lot of room to kind of go over how to create a good story. What are the elements that are needed within a creative story? How to create really good dialogue, how to create interesting characters, or if we were going for the argumentative essay, how to create an argument, one that is soundproof, one that has a good 3 body paragraphs going forward, and one that actually is a really good thesis that can't be really poked at or prodded at by the, the markers of the exam. And then finally, the reading section goes along with that and flows really nicely actually after doing writing, because they're already gauged with having to read and analyze things very quickly within their writing. They can now bring a lot of those techniques that they learned there into the reading component. And we go through a lot of like test examples, going through what the exam will look like, how to, again, tackle the different sections, certain strategies to attack these sections. And I also like to, at this time, do a lecture on also how to just take the test and how to be comfortable with test taking, because a lot of the time students will kind of get very worked up and scared about the SSAT, which is understandable. It's a very scary test for them. And it's a very large test. So I also like to kind of take a bit of time to teach them how to walk into the test with confidence and knowing that they've been doing a lot of work throughout the semester and they're going to get that really good mark that they've been wanting to. I hope that helps to answer some more of your questions, Henry, and I'm really excited to actually meet your son and have him in my class. I love SSAT, so I'm very excited to see him. Thank you guys, and I will pass the mic back.
Thank you. I mean, one thing I wanna add for SSAT preparation. I think one of the key is to get started early. So if you wanna, obviously, I think the private school application deadline is December the 1st, right? So some students may wanna take maybe 2 tests, right? Obviously, if you can do one, get a perfect score, that would be fantastic. If for any reason the first one didn't, perform well, you want to make sure that you have enough time to do another one. So by getting started early, will give you more time to, polish your skills in different areas, right? The vocab, the readings, the ones that Teresa was just, talking about, right? It also will give you more time for, if you want to take multiple tests, right? Okay, so early would be the key for the SSAT success. All right, if we don't have more questions, I think we can wrap this up here. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Janelle, Teresa, Matt, Dr. Hamanda. And if you guys have any questions, I mean, students or parents, you are always welcome to reach out. We got a wonderful team here. You know, everybody would love to get your questions, and yeah, through either email or maybe we have WeChat, right? We have phone. There are other social medias. If you want to reach out, feel free to do so. All right. I think we're good. Yeah. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
night.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night. Bye.